All right, welcome to the Hard Knocks podcast, where we dive deep into the door-knocking industry, the grind and the grit it takes to succeed. This is the show for the ones who've been told no more times than they can count, but they keep showing up anyway. And today, I have a very special guest. I got my man David Dube from Miami, the 305.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to me, man. We touched base a little bit on social media. We were talking, man. You were like, dude, we need to rap on the Hard Knocks podcast, dude. And you know what's really cool about this is that you've been an adjuster, you've knocked doors, I'm gonna let you talk your stuff,
yes,
right? But like now, like you're a lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Right? You went all the way through all the levels of this stuff, and I think that we've never had a guest on the show that is going to have the perspective that you have on what's going on in the industry, you know, especially now that you're here in Texas and you're in Florida as well, right? You're kind of seeing some of these things going on. And I think it's going to add a lot of value to our listeners. So I'm going to let you just open up, bro. So how did you get into storm restoration?
Well, first I'm going to say this. When I reached out to you on Facebook, it's because, again, I saw the podcast. I saw your energy. You know what I mean? I definitely wanted to be a part of that. I looked at some of the shows and I said, you know what? I think that my perspective, right, coming from my background, that we'll talk a little bit about, was going to add a lot of value to your audience. You know what I'm saying?
1000%.
So how I got to the insurance world, it started in roofing. So I worked for a Master Elite certified contractor in Miami. Shout out to TNS Roofing Systems. Still got a bunch of boys over there. Owner Louis Toledo. And I worked in roofing for about 2 years.
Okay.
Did some insurance claims at that time, right? It wasn't a big thing. I was in retail. And then a good friend of mine was a public adjuster.
Okay.
Comes up to me. He's like, hey, man, if you're able to organize yourself like this, you know what I'm saying, and do this type of sale, I got something for you. No recovery, no fee. Let me show you what this is.
Right.
I essentially started traveling with him to Central Florida at the time for free, not making no money, essentially just to learn, right, feel out the process. And then I started knocking doors.
Yeah.
So that was my first touch of the insurance claims world. I would say that was in about 2011. End of 2011, I was starting, let's say, 2010 in the roofing industry.
Okay.
And then from there, essentially, man, I worked as an adjuster, public adjuster, a loss consultant, appraiser for a decade.
Dang, right? You got resume.
Yeah. So I've been in the game. I got hack certified.
Yeah.
Right? I took it very seriously.
Yep.
I used to work for a lot of different attorneys and adjusters doing estimates too. So I had my own clients, but I would also do a lot of damage assessments. I would put together scopes and estimates for other people.
Yep.
That's how I got a lot of my experience.
Yeah,
you know?
1000%.
But what's crazy was I always wanted to go to law school. So that was a passion of mine since I was young, right? Life happens, right? Shit happens. And I had to go make money, you know? So that got a little deviated. But when I got back into this industry and I saw the need for attorneys, you know, and how they had a place here and like who we were up against, I'm like, I got to get back into this.
Yeah, it's fighting a good fight.
Yeah, I gotta do what I've wanted to do forever. And now I got a niche. Now I found something I'm passionate about.
Right.
So I got into law school, dude. I took my LSAT. I worked as a full-time adjuster. Got into law school, and then in 2017, Hurricane Irma hits Florida, and then that essentially changes my life. Right. I'm already in the game a long time. I have these different clients. I have referral partners. I got these people I'm doing estimates for, and I essentially start traveling to 30 different cities within Florida, essentially working claims.
Yeah.
And I was going full-time to law school.
When you were working the claims, were you working them as a PA or as a lawyer at the time?
Yes. At the time, I was working as a PA.
Okay.
Right? And at that time, too, loss consulting became very popular in Florida.
Is that different?
It's a little different. It's because it was a point in time where there was a lot of attorneys that were working Florida, and the PAs were working with them. You know what I mean, in a capacity. That became a thing that was going on for a little while. But again, then they got very strict on making sure everybody was licensed and everybody was doing the things right, right, and enforcing that. So that shifted somewhat. But to be honest with you, man, during that time, I gained an immense amount of knowledge being on the ground.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That is just a different perspective from an attorney that's been just sitting behind the desk. You know what I'm saying? And then seeing this paper come in and looking at a picture of damage. seeing the whole story, being there with the homeowner, feeling them, you know what I'm saying, understanding the narrative, all that, it just kind of changes everything for
Absolutely,
you,
yeah. Because I mean, you started off selling roofs, right? And now you're a PA, right? And then now, you watch what these homeowners go through with these insurance companies, man. And like, I'm not like, look, like I feel like we have an ecosystem that we have to protect, man. You know what I mean? And I don't want to knock insurance companies back, man. Fuck these people. I'm not that guy. I'm not like people are like, oh, is State Farm bad? I'm like, State Farm's not bad. It just depends on what adjuster comes out here, because there's some that we call the Antichrist, right? And then there's some that will come out here and we're super cool with them and we have a great relationship, right? And so I say this is a relationship industry, man. This really is. You know, who you build bonds with and rapport with, I think, is what truly matters, and really who you like side with, right, determines who you are in this industry. You know what I mean? So, but let's get back to this, man. So, so you're doing the PA work, right, in 2017 with Irma. What stuff are you learning at that time? Like, what perspective changes for you? Because you're like, man, I'm learning so much. Like, because you were already kind of doing it with this other guy. You know what I mean? So, like, what changes for you at that time?
At that time, I think it was the first time that I saw like legit losses, right? Like legit, you know, catastrophic damage, and how the insurance companies were dealing with it, dude. And like displaced people out of their homes, not paying, you know, ridiculous denials, where leading up to that point, it was a lot of referrals looking for claims, a lot of water claims. Yeah, you had your windstorms and your hails and your things here, and you were like, oh, the insurance company doesn't want to pay and they're difficult. And you're kind of like, well, you know, the damages here, that these people are not displaced, the whole house isn't, you know, falling apart.
Right.
And then you see what happens during Irma, and you realize it's not about the damage, right?
Yeah.
That's the time that I realized it's not about the damage no more. This is something else. This is protocol.
Yeah.
This is the carrier. This is from a higher place,
Yeah.
right? Because you have these legit losses, and these adjusters coming in like, oh, I'm going to write this whole thing 100%. Like, this is crazy. And then you get an estimate back, and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So it was my first like reality check at that time to really seeing like how deep it goes and how much help people need. You know what I'm trying to say? Where it's like, you know, some people knock, you know, the roofing game and that game, and it's like, oh, well, the insurance company's got to protect themselves. Like, look, man, I've seen them on bad claims not pay, and I've seen a house ripped off, you know what I mean, from the foundation, not get paid.
Yeah.
So it's not really about what's there sometimes, and that's the unfortunate reality,
Right.
you know? And that's, it elevated my passion. I was already in law school. I'm already PA. I'm already loving what I'm doing. But that took it to another level.
Absolutely. Because you know what's right. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when you see somebody getting done wrong, man, and then like, you're like, man, dude, like, nah, bro, I'm not gonna let this happen to this person.
Bro, when they're not, once you see people outside of their homes, they have mold all in their house, right? Their kids are getting sick. Yeah. You know what I'm trying to say?
I've seen it.
I've seen it. And at that time, it was taking years sometimes in Florida, just the way that things were set up. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you see it a lot here now. I mean, again, we do a lot of barrel claims, you know? And
what is it?
Barrel.
Oh, barrel roll? What are you talking about? Like
in Houston, here in Texas.
Yeah.
And again, man, just watching the determinations that came out through that, you know, and how much we got to fight on that end, it just gave me, again, a lot of passion for what I do, man.
Yeah. When did you become an attorney? Like, what year was that?
So I graduated in May of 2018.
Okay.
And then, again, at that time, so I was working as a full-time adjuster. I took 17 and 18 credits back-to-back in law school while I was an adjuster.
Damn.
So I didn't then even have time to study for the bar. So I moved to Central Florida with my wife, who had got her residency over in Central Florida to open the firm. So I had a plan. I'm going to go to Central Florida. I'm going to open my firm when I get barred, right? So went out there, studied by myself, passed the bar, and then I opened the firm in February 2020.
Okay.
So
fun time.
So we're talking, exactly. I was in a little apartment by myself, and my first employee was my little sister, bro.
Wow.
So it was my little sister. She's now about to graduate law school.
Wow. That's amazing, man.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah.
It was, but it's been an amazing journey. Again, now we have 8 attorneys. You know, we got a full staff. I think we're up at like 35 employees total.
Holy shit.
You know what I mean?
Hell yeah, bro.
I'm
salute to you, man.
Thank
dude,
you,
for from 2020 to 2026, dude, I mean, for you to have that kind of growth, bro, I mean, it just shows who you are as a leader, you know? What does the logical law firm do for contractors? Like, what do you guys do? Like, what is your service like? What you know what I mean? Why do people call logical law firm?
That's a great question, man. At the end of the day, like we had kind of chopped it up a little bit about, you don't always need an attorney, you know what I'm saying, in this industry.
Right.
It's not always the right situation. But I would tell you that for contractors, when things get complex, we're the ones that are going to come in and clean things up, right?
Yeah.
The cosmetic damage exclusions, those are big commercial losses that you're getting the pushback on, right? That have all these different clauses and endorsements and ACVs and roof schedules. And again, we just come in there to kind of clean everything up, you know? But at the end of the day, it's represent the homeowner, right? And get them as much money as we can. So that we could get the contractor to put that roof back on, get the property back to pre-loss.
Absolutely.
That is our goal. That is our niche, right? That's all we do.
We were talking about earlier before the show, right? You were like, yo, what's your process like? You know, what's Texas like, or what y'all do? You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, like, listen, I think public adjusting kind of went out the window, dude. I'm like, you know, and like, you know, I've never, personally, I've never had to go to litigation or go anything past an appraisal, you know? Maybe because I didn't know, one, when I needed to take it to an attorney, but yeah, like the whole future of Texas, of where it seems like it's going, is like everybody's becoming an appraiser now. You know, and the appraisals are working. Like I mean, like I was telling you that stat earlier, right? I was like, dude, I can't say we, but like, you know, the appraisals that homeowners have gone through, I've only seen 2 lose. You know what I mean? Now, the one was a complete loss, which was the one we were talking about earlier. But then the other one, I forgot what happened with that one. I went to umpire or something and whatever. There's a whole thing there. But talk to me about what you've seen in Texas so far. Because we were talking, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you've been in Texas a year and a half. You got a branch out there in Austin. So do we. Talk to me about what you're seeing in Texas, bro, because Florida is like, that's like Manhattan, like whatever, it's like Washington, D.C., like whatever happens in Florida is like coming down the throats of everybody else. It's like the starting point, but what are you starting to see here in Texas?
So one thing I will say that's great about Texas is like there's still a lot more consumer protection, which again, at the end of the day, when it comes to how things really change is about overall, if you're trying to protect the consumer, insurance companies will get less leverage, right? So if the mindset is protect the consumer, in Florida, we kind of got sold out a little bit. In Texas, the whole appraisal thing, I think it's extremely valuable, right? I think it's amazing that they put it into law that anybody can elect to go to appraisal, right? That the homeowner can invoke it or the insurance company can invoke it. I think that it's a expedited tool. I think it's an economical tool. I think that a lot of the PAs that were just doing public adjusting work now are doing a lot more appraisals. They're coming in a situation where maybe charging 10% don't make sense, and they could come in, help the homeowner, help the contractor, and get things paid.
Rapid fire, yeah.
Rapid fire. So I love appraisal. I think it's a great avenue. I think that it's bringing money to a lot of these public adjusters because they're a lot of the ones that have the knowledge, right, to kind of fight on that and be the appraiser. Again, where I see it difficult, sometimes you guys deal with.
I got a quick question for you. Real quick before we get into
Let's
this.
do it.
All right. As a contractor, I cannot tell the homeowner to go to appraisal.
Yes.
Correct.
No,
right?
correct.
All right. So everybody needs to understand that, okay? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I tell them, hey, I can't help you anymore, but I do know an appraiser, which would be a next step, and I can recommend you one. Is that the correct way to do it in Texas?
Yes, because
I can recommend an appraiser. I just can't recommend them to go through with the appraisal process.
Again, informing somebody about a right that they have is different from forcing them to do it or telling them that this is the only way we're going to get paid or you have to do this or right?
Yeah.
The biggest thing is like, hey, in Texas, as a homeowner, you have the right to go to appraisal. I could refer you somebody.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's nothing, again, and that's public record. That's not legal advice. That's essentially you as a human being, if your neighbor came up to you, right, and was like, hey, you could go to appraisal?
Right.
I got a guy for you, right? Just because you're a roofer,
Yeah.
Now, what they're trying to prevent is that you guys are telling them, right?
Yeah.
Hey, this is your next step,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The fact that you're informing them, I cannot help you anymore, right? You're going to have to take this next step on your own. Here's somebody that you could call, right? There's a million other guys you could call. That's the way you want to do it.
Yeah.
You know,
1000%.
but it's just information, right?
Okay.
And I think they try to stop, even Florida, all around the U.S., they're trying to limit what a roofer can do, limit what they can say. But at the end of the day, the arguments have been constitutional, right?
Yeah.
It's freedom of speech.
Yep.
At the end of the day, like, you can't just stop me from saying to somebody, hey, do you know that you could do this?
Right.
Right?
There's so much gray area. You know,
It's the
they
grayest.
go, oh, you can't negotiate with the insurance company, but they fucking negotiate with my estimators all the fucking time. They're like, give you 3,000. Nah, well, we need 4. You're gonna have to send me this. All right, I'll give you 4. Now that I'm like, it's a whole back and forth thing. You know what I mean? I'm like, where? I mean, you've been to a lot of conferences, man. Where are they taking this? You know?
So I'm gonna say this, man. I think we touched on it earlier. It's about, when it comes to like laws, and it's all about enforceability, bro.
Yeah.
And until they actually start enforcing stuff, right? And we'll touch on some other things on that. It is what it is, right? What they're trying to do is prevent it from happening more and making it just across the board easy for roofers to just negotiate claims. But at the same time, they're trying to get claims done. And these homeowners have legit claims.
Right.
And there's a roofer involved, and they're sitting there going, what am I going to do? Just not talk to nobody when this person has a legit loss, that the roof can get put on, and this is a legitimate company, which I'm going to talk about that too.
Yeah.
But what roofers need to be prepared for is for the day that does happen, right? And you already got to be on the mindset of like, all right, well, I got a plan B, plan C if they start to enforce, because they already told us they don't want it to happen.
Yeah.
They told us we can't negotiate, we can't supplement, but then they're talking to us every day, right? I mean, I don't want to use analogies, but again, we've all been in situations where it's like, oh, and then it's like, yeah, that's what they're doing, right? They're like, no, this is bad, but then they're like, yeah, it's okay,
yeah,
right? So I think it's just about being prepared, right? To know what's coming down the pipe. We brought up, again, unlicensed practice of public adjusting.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted to stress that a lot. Are they enforcing it right now? I mean, I just came from an insurance conference with Tapia. No, but are they trying to? Yeah. Right? And I think that every roofer just needs to be prepared for it. This is an amazing market. Yeah. There's an immense amount of money to be made.
Oh, absolutely. Texas, baby.
All day. And you just got to be prepared for what could be on the horizon, right? Because they're already telling us it could be something.
What do you think are going to be the fastest things that change?
I think it's very different, because I think Texas, the reason there's no licensing, right? I think Texas likes people to be making money and roofs to get put on and there to be construction flowing and doing that. So it's like they have this conundrum. So I don't know if the first thing is going to be allowing the negotiating, right? Because I think that puts a hard damper.
Yeah.
If they did enforce it, it would be a little tough. But again, do they want to do it?
Yeah.
Does it cost too much of a holdup? Are we like diminishing an industry that's doing good for this state? Like,
right.
Right. I think the biggest thing, and there's one thing I wanted to bring up to you that I think you're going to touch on a lot, right? You're going to, find very interesting, is they profile everybody.
Oh, every roofing company.
I
know.
and I don't even know if it's every roofing. I'm talking about every rep. Like, they're on another level when it comes to that. Yeah. So what I want to tell you is the legitimacy of the company, the way you operate, the way you do things, man, is going to dictate a lot of how they roll with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're like, some companies, they're going to enforce it. Some companies are like, no, these people are doing the wrong thing. Don't even talk to them. Don't. But if you guys are doing right by customers, insurance companies see that.
Yep.
They're kind of like, we'll waste our time and energy with somebody else that's being a bad actor, right? Yeah. So I would say, what's the fastest thing that's going to change? We saw it, the policies, right? Yeah. That was the first thing they're trying to do, right? Limit the coverages. That's how you kind of squeeze things out a little bit. The The next thing I would tell you is probably that, man. If they were to try to limit the amount that you guys can supplement, right? In terms of how it's going to affect the contractor, I think that that's the only thing that could change is enforceability of things that they already put out there.
What are they enforcing in Texas? I don't know what they're enforcing out here, dude. I don't know. I'm like, dude, don't negotiate. Don't do this. Don't say that. Don't waive the deductible. Like, you know, they say, oh, don't do this. Don't do that. And we're like, all right, cool. We're going to, you know, just stay within these parameters. And you know, me, you know, we all have a good angel and a bad angel. And I tend to go with the good angel now, and I stay on the right side of right, you know, in my life these days, right? But like, you know, when I'm seeing these companies go $40 million the second year in business, and I know what they're doing, you know what I mean? And I know they're waiving deductibles, and I'm like, it's making it very fucking hard to compete. Because I'm like, I'm not gonna break the law, bro. I broke the law a lot for my first 30 years. I'm not breaking the law for the next till I'm dead. You know what I mean? And so, because I do believe in karmic debt, you know what I mean? And I do, and you know, my business partner, Naaman, he reminds me all the time. He goes, bro, we all get what we deserve. You know what I mean? He goes, and because we train the right way and we teach our guys the right way of doing things, like that as we scale and as we grow, when they do start to enforce that stuff, we won't have to change because all of our stuff will be streamlined, right? And like done the right way. You know what I mean?
You guys are ahead of the game in that regard, bro. Because again, those guys making that money, and you, it's the same thing when you're breaking the law when you're young, right? And you're trying to do those other things. It's the quick money, bro. It's and that stuff never lasts, right?
Yep.
And all it takes is one day, one change, one thing for you not to be able to function the same way, and then all of a sudden everything kind of crumbles, right?
Yep.
Your sales guys are used to talking about absorbing deductibles, which you cannot do, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you strip that away from them, right? That little tool that they had, which was made it easy for a bad sales guy to get an insurance claim over all the other roofers that are knocking because they're like, oh, we're gonna do something illegal. Then your guys are completely hampered. They're like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
How do we explain this now? How do we, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And they put in all this work, you know? They go out, they meet with the adjuster, all this stuff, and then they're like, oh, yeah, no, my Uncle John, man, he's a roofer, man. He said he'd do it from no money out of pocket. And you're like, how do you compete? Like, you're like, dude, they're letting the bad actors win. And I'm like, I don't know. Isn't it in Florida they have to hold their deductible in escrow or something like that? Like, so like you can't, like, if they do file an insurance claim or something, it's like part of their homeowners insurance, like goes into another account. How's that? Is that how it works out there in Florida?
No. So they're just a lot more strict about, and again, you could look up a lot of articles on roofing contractors, but it's all about enforceability, dude. And all it really is that you're not supposed to absorb a deductible.
Right.
The homeowner is supposed to, in Florida, they make sure that the homeowner has to come out of pocket that amount, right? That they're paying something. Again, do roofers do it? Has that been going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
But they enforce it over there. And if they catch roofers and they do that, they've been trying to shut it down.
Yeah.
Right? They're going after them. They're doing criminal charge. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what it comes down to. But at the end of the day, it's just all about the fact that technically what the roof is worth, if they wrote an estimate for that, like the insurance company straight estimate comes out and it's $20K, right? And you're gonna do the roof for $20K and they got a $2,500 deductible, they wanna see you got a check for $2,500 in Florida, right? And that's the way that it should work. They're essentially, somebody needed to pay that deductible. Now, when it comes to an attorney and there's a release and there isn't an estimate for what the roof costs and stuff, that's different, right? Yeah. Then they get the roof for a certain price. We negotiated an amount that was global, right? There's nothing setting what the amount was. So, you know what I mean? Roofer could charge what he wants to charge, right? If the homeowner ended up with good money because of the settlement we got in release, there's nothing that dictated and delineate where exactly that money needed to go.
What happens in Texas, and it drives me crazy, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong, okay? Because like this is another, I'm touching on two things. One is education. All right. So there is no like real education. Everything is a fucking wives' tale out here. And then, you know what I mean? Until you find out from a fucking attorney or an insurance agent, like, and then you start doing your research on laws and like what is like the right way to do things and what you can't do. And, you know, you don't really get into that till like you've been in the game for like 4 or 5 years, right?
There's no education.
Yes, there's no education, right? And so they don't educate homeowners, one, on what's in their policy, and two, is it does drive me a little bit crazy because like I will ask a homeowner like what their hail and wind deductible is, right? And then I do tell them to check their policy to see if it's an ACV or RCV policy. And I'm like, because based off of that information, like it's gonna determine like if this guy doesn't have any money, like dude, don't fucking file a claim. Like and it puts me in a very weird situation. Now, is that wrong that I do that? I think I might violate UPPA. I don't know if that happens. I train my guys because I'm like, dude, we have to somehow be able to educate the homeowner on what the basic common things are. Is that not right to do in Texas? Because if you got an ACV policy and you have a 2% deductible and you have a fucking 30-year shingle and it's fucking 15 years old, you know what I mean? It's like you might as well just get a retail estimate, dude.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like let's not even go this route, you know? And so it makes it very difficult because if you don't ask those qualifying questions in the beginning, then you get to the agreement or the contract table and then they get hit with that. Now it's done. Now you're already in the mud. You know, you're knee deep. You can't go back. Claim's 100%. Open. Here's it. You got to fix it. And they're getting charged premiums. So I'm like, what do you think people need to do about like how do you change that? What do you think about that? Like as far as like education and how people can get education without becoming a fucking attorney, right? Like roofing contractors, where do we go?
So I could tell you again, when it comes to getting knowledge about insurance, not enough roofing contractors are going to insurance conferences.
Yeah.
I think that
what are some of the best insurance conferences to go to?
Best insurance conference to go to in terms of pure knowledge and understanding the climate and stuff, I would probably say is Windstorm Conference.
Oh, you win the storm?
No, Windstorm.
Oh,
it's
Windstorm.
Windstorm.
There's a big difference. The storm and Windstorm. All right.
Huge difference, right?
All right.
The thing about it in all of like the storms, the roof cons, a lot of that stuff, I don't think there's enough insurance education. I don't think that they're talking a lot about how you make money, which is always great, right? How you knock doors, how you close, right? A lot of those things. But they try not to focus on the negative stuff. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's usually a rah-rah, it's a hype thing, right? And it's more about that than really telling people, hey, look, this is what's on the forefront.
Yeah.
In terms of education, man, the biggest problem in this country when it comes to insurance, and I'm going to just say this right now, I have a bunch of boys of mine who are insurance agents. I love you, my brothers. But there is no education from the person selling them the policy, bro.
Yes.
And when you tell somebody, hey, I need the cheapest premium because I'm trying to live, right? And then they're like, oh, okay, well, I could give you this policy. It's ACV, high deductible, blah, 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 blah. At the end, 10K cap on your water claim. And here you go.
Yeah.
Cheap as you could get.
Yeah.
And the homeowner's like, oh my God, wow, that's amazing. Boom, let me sign right now.
Yep.
And then when you go to realize you ain't got no coverage, period. So you're paying $2K or whatever it is, right? And you're saving some money there, but you're paying $2K for air, essentially.
Yeah.
You're paying $2K for air.
Yeah.
And it's the agents that have no responsibility to educate them on what they're selling. It's like us not educating them on what we're selling, what our service is, what's going to go on your roof. You know what I'm saying? They do none of that.
None of it.
There's very few, right? I can't say all, right? There are some agents but at the end of the day, they're not telling them what an ACV is. And who should really be telling them? The person that's selling them that contract. Exactly. Right?
They don't teach them how to even use it. They don't even know. When I got into this, the first roof I got on, I was like, I didn't understand the black spots and the dents and the this and I was just learning, and I'm like, I was like, this roof looks fine. I'm like, I don't know, like they're not going to pay $30,000 for this roof, and then they pay, and then I realized why they pay, but they But then when I would run into people with ACV policies and 2% deductibles and cosmetic waivers, and then, it is so I tell people, like, it's a act of God, right? So it's like not like it's gonna solely increase their rate.
Which is 100% true.
But after talking to some insurance agents, you don't want to have 2 claims in the last 2 years for the same shit. Like that's where they start raising your rate solely, right? Like you keep filing claims trying to
You
get
look like a risk.
Yeah.
At that point, they're assessing it like you yourself, right, are the risk, right? That if anything's gonna happen, you are gonna
you're going after that roof.
You're going after that roof. So I would tell you the education starts there first. Jay, is like the agents, man. We've got to do a better job in terms of holding them responsible. They're selling people contracts. And I think one of the attorneys that spoke at Tapia said it best, man. Like, and it's sad to say this like that, but insurance is like air, dude. Like in our society today, like you can't function without insurance.
Right.
And if you're gonna have something that powerful, right, and an instrument like that controls the coverage of my property, you should be held a little bit more accountable in terms of explaining what those things are. Right?
Absolutely.
And I think, first of all, some of these agents don't even know what a roof surface payment schedule is. And they don't know that the roof is 18 years old, bro.
I was trying to do a training on the roof payment schedule the other day, dude, and it was hard for me to fucking explain. I know how to explain it, but I was like trying to articulate it because like I can understand it, but it was like, and I'm like, all right, so based off your age and this depreciation and then it's like it creates this. I got to learn calculus to help this homeowner understand how much you're gonna owe me at the end of this, and like that's a new policy too. I've also seen them here recently revoke in the policy. They say that you can't go to appraisal.
So, okay, that changed. So that was the one thing that Texas did that's very big, is that now they made it law where anybody can elect to go to appraisal.
Okay. So all those policies had to get changed up. Because I saw one last year and it said you cannot go to appraisal. And I was like, oh. He's like, well, policy says I can't go. I'm like, oh, well, I don't know. And then the appraiser said, yeah, you can't do it. And I was like, shit.
So before that was a thing. And again, since appraisal was working here in Texas, that was their next way of limiting, right, the consumer, right, limiting the recovery. And then Texas was like, no.
Yeah.
This is either person can elect. You got to go. Now, there's the thing that's interesting. Just because you go to appraisal doesn't mean the insurance company cannot still affirm defenses. So that's the crazy part, right? Where you could go to appraisal, a number could come out, and the insurance company could say, nah, we still think there was actually no coverage there, and we're not going to pay the award. And again, is it right? Like, no. Are they held on that number? Probably, but we got to get the coverage first. We got to prove that there was coverage for us to go get that number. We go to litigation. So when it comes to like the appraisal side, it's great. It's been working. Everything is good, but there is some downsides, right? Which is like,
let's talk about the cons. Because I think everybody here has been kind of appraisal happy, a little trigger happy, like appraisal. Talk to me about the cons, because there's nobody better than you to explain it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you just like this. Appraisal one, and we talked about this. It's relationships, right? There's a small, a lot of guys are doing it now, but it's a small group of people.
It's the Freemasons. I'm just kidding.
Actually, it's funny. I'm not gonna mention his name, but one of the appraisers is he's very, very popular. And is an umpire too, and I think he deals around the nation. But he was huge in Florida. Was actually a Freemason, right? Like one of the top guys actually.
33rd degree Freemason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, rocking the little ring and stuff.
The ring, yeah.
But it's a lot about that. It's a lot of relationships, But the biggest con with it is one person makes the decision, at the end. So you got two umpires, right? Both have to be disinterested, right? Even though they're coming hired by one side and the other guy's coming by one side, which the attorney in Tapia made a great, point about that, which is like, come on, man, how are we going to say they're disinterested? They got hired to prove each other's point, right? Like, let's just say they're fighting and then the umpire's the neutral, you feel me? But you got two disinterested guys, but at the end of the day, they can't agree. It's one guy, right, who comes in and decides if you get paid or not. And my problem with that is, again, you strip the power of the people. I'm going to tell you that juries versus insurance companies, we usually have the favor, right?
Yeah.
It's David versus Goliath. It's a peer of theirs, a homeowner, somebody that they can relate to versus the big bad insurance company.
Right.
So the insurance companies don't ever think they're in a very good position when we go to that route.
Yeah.
So what I try to say about it is like, you put jurors in a box, they're a lot of the time very likely going to side with us.
Yeah.
You go to an umpire, right, about something, again, less likely, right, that we're going to succeed. Still good, but at the end of the day, if he makes that call, we're done.
Yeah.
Right? If he doesn't agree with your side, there's one person at the end of the day that makes the decision.
So right out, because we were talking about that, right after umpire, you're done.
You're done.
Yeah, because you got the two unbiased parties. If they can't agree, then you got to pay another fee. The homeowner would have to pay another fee, and then it goes to some fucking 33rd degree Freemason who comes out there. I'm just kidding. He determines, whether who's right, and then they go with that settlement. And even at that, I've had this happen before. No, well, it wasn't my deal, but I was on the deal. The appraisal got approved, $55,000, got sent into the insurance carrier, and the insurance carrier said, no, we're not paying it. Like, that was it. And so I said, go pound sand. And you were like, well, hold on, they all agreed. Like, yeah, well, we don't give a fuck. And so I'm like, for contractors out here, because this is like, we're kind of like past 101, 102, 103. Like, this is more like advanced shit for contractors been in this for a while. Where do they inject the logical law firm? Like, where do they inject you at? Like, you know what I mean? When's the best time? Because, like, can I inject you after appraisal but before umpire? Like, you know what I mean? Or like where does
that's
that,
a good that's a good question though, Jay. So you can retract from appraisal, right, at any point before the appraisal award goes out.
Okay.
Right? You can pull out of appraisal, but remember, they also get the opportunity to elect it. You know what I mean? So like, you guys pull out of appraisal, right? You're gonna go through litigation. At the end of the day, I would tell you that when we were to get involved is like the situations that you brought up.
Yeah.
Cosmetic damage exclusion, you got metal, all right, slate roof, steel coated.
Yep.
And if you go to appraisal, they're going to be talking about coverage.
Right.
They're talking about policy. That's where I would say you would rather go to an attorney, where we have a lot more leverage, where we know how we can push that, where we can go with it, whether it just being one guy that might side with their perspective regarding cosmetic or functional. Right. Where we could get experts involved, and at that point, it's like, oh, okay, hold on. We got an engineer. We got a metallurgist, right? Which is what we would bring in at that point, right? That said, hey, this is not just cosmetic damage, is functional.
Right.
So I would tell you on the complex stuff, man, that's when you want to go to an attorney. I think a lot of these open coverage claims in these storm areas, roofs are getting bought all over the neighborhood. You got a tough adjuster. He opens coverage for a couple of shingles on each side. Bro, appraisal.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good opportunity to go, again, expedited, cost efficient, right? The probability that it'll end up getting paid is probably high.
Yeah.
But you're dealing large loss. You're dealing anything with a cosmetic damage exclusion.
Yeah.
Right? You got a hardcore matching issue, right? Where like it's small little damage, but is discontinued.
Right.
You brought that up.
Yep.
Right? And we got to go to repairability, manufacturer spec. We're looking at other avenues. Mm-hmm. That's when you want to get an attorney involved as a contractor.
What has been your turnaround times in Texas?
So,
because I have lost my confidence in all the PAs and the law firms, and I'm like, dude, I don't care about my money in 2 years. No, I do care about the homeowner, and I do want to make sure that they get the right people and the right people on their side. But I've had sales guys go to PAs or go, and go to anything other than an appraisal, and it takes a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, and they don't even really communicate with you other than when they get the settlement. You know what I mean? And so, like, what is the turnaround time with y'all? Like, what? Because you guys, you have a team. You have the appraisers, right? You have a team of experts.
Well, so remember, the appraiser list we put together is just guys that we know, just like you,
so
right? Because remember, they got to be disinterested.
Right.
So if we're involved as a rep, even when we hire an appraiser, they got to be disinterested.
Right.
So do we have our full list of
Referral.
guys that are legit? 100%.
Okay.
Do we have our experts that we have that we use? 100%.
Okay, cool.
But I would tell you turnaround time. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Turnaround time depends on the claim.
Okay.
But a lot of the claims that are coming through in Texas, which are legit hail, windstorm claims, right? That you got open coverage for the most part. That's what you'll find here. You got your couple of denials. There's a good chance it gets done in pre-litigation, whether it is a mediation, which unfortunately I think is wrong, that public adjusters in Texas cannot mediate. That's kind of ridiculous because they're a licensed rep. They could defend the whole claim, do everything, and then you don't give them one last opportunity to try and negotiate without extra cost of appraisal, whatever it is. But I would tell you that there could be a time where we settle in 2 months. Because when we get a file that has a determination on it, by law, we have to file a 542A letter. If it's not an act of
What's
God,
542A?
love. So, and every contractor, to be honest with you, fellas, if you're doing claims, man, knowing this stuff is just more knowledge, right? And just understanding what they're trying to do. Essentially, it's a notice we got to send to the carrier, right? Letting them know we are going to sue them. And then they got 60 days to respond.
60?
60.
I thought it was 15.
Well, so there you go. The two different things.
Okay.
That's the quick claim pay statute here, which is incredible. Okay. That's amazing, right?
Okay.
They got 15 days to pay on their claim when they've had all the information that they need to make a determination. But then again, they try to play that out, right? Yeah. Did I have all the info? Was it your fault? I asked you for this one little receipt. You didn't give it to me. And now, we can't determine. Yeah. But they have a quick claim pay statute, which is incredible here. It's what makes the insurance companies have to pay statutory interest for delaying claims, for claims going long. So, and it just dropped down a lot, but it was at 18%. So you're going on a 50K loss. It takes a year in litigation. Automatically, they're paying 9K.
Yeah.
On that loss. So,
I did not know that.
So statutory interest, quick claim pay statute is incredible. That's one amazing part that Texas has. But when it comes to the 542A letter, that's essentially, there was always a notice requirement here in Texas, but this notice requirement essentially kind of like stepped it up a little bit. It made us be much more specific about what we're alleging. And that's where we also allege bad faith.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that's where the leverage is here in Texas, where like we can hold the insurance companies accountable for making these predetermined claim determinations, right? That like somehow every State Farm claim, is a repair, right? That they don't replace any. Yeah, that's a predetermined. That is a systematic, and that's what the bad faith is. That's why they're going after them in Oklahoma for RICO, which we'll touch on a little bit, Yeah. But essentially, that 542A letter is a really good tool for us to get claims settled there because they're forced to respond to us in 60 days, and they'll usually give us some sort of offer. And then our step there is to schedule a teleconference with our attorney, and we try to always settle when we can. Right. So that's the idea, because the people who are referring these clients to us, right, and these homeowners that are referring clients to us, they want to see results. Yeah. So if you're trying to play the long game, you settle the claim fast, you make less money as the law firm, but you get more referrals. Right. You got happier customers. Yeah. So turnaround time.
If everybody's making money and the homeowner's happy, then that's how you're getting all your referrals.
That's it. Yeah. So turnaround time, again, some files take 2 months, man, and we could get them done. Some take 6, some take a year. Yeah. But realistically, no file should take more than 2 years because of the way that the litigation deadlines are mapped out. Yeah. But it all depends on the file. So on average, you're talking about settlement time. Let's call it 4 to 6 months. Okay. It all depends on the file, but 4 to 6 months is pretty accurate. Yeah.
And once you guys are done with it, is there still supplements is the claim still open for supplements, or anything like that, or is that shut once you guys are done with it too?
Yeah. So once the attorney gets involved, is an interesting thing that always happens is that the client signs a release. Okay. And that release is essentially, this claim is done. Nothing. Done. And
we reviewed everything. But you guys go out there and review everything. Yeah.
So remember, at that point, when that client is signing that, we got to make sure that they're good with that number and they know exactly who's doing what costs what, because the one good thing about litigation and when we settle is it's just a number.
Yeah.
There's no estimate. There's nothing that maps out where the money needs to go to the property.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially a global settlement, and they're saying, hey, for this amount of money, we're willing to pay you to get this done.
And do they pay the depreciation too? They pay it all
Everything.
upfront?
So
Oh,
even
so it's a lump sum.
lump sum
minus
everything.
deductible.
So we gotta
get
go
as much work as you need to get done or whatever. And then also, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, when you guys do that, are our names on it? Like the contractor's name would be on the check, or just the homeowner?
So when you sign your contract with the homeowner and it's submitted to the carrier's gonna, a lot of the times, gonna want to put you guys on the check, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Now, in terms of you guys being on the check, it's very important, right? But as the rep, we like to make sure that the client agrees, right? So that everybody's happy at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the important part.
Yeah.
Again, when you're working with a roofing company and you're an attorney and they've referred some clients, they're the roofer that's assigned to the file, right? You got your homeowner, you got your client. A lot of times I tell the roofing guys, look, man, it's on a global. We just talked about it's a lump sum. You got to go out there, touch base with them again, maybe give them the price.
Right.
Talk to them, see more or less, because there's going to be a lump sum, right? When it comes through appraisal, when it comes through the insurance company, there's an exactimate. It tells you this is what the roof. So it's very clear for everybody. What happens in lit sometimes is that your name's on the check. It's a $40K check because they got interiors, they got siding, they got this, whatever. And we kind of work it out. And then all of a sudden, $40K check, attorney, Middlestorm Roofing Company, and they're like, hold up, but is the roof's going to get 40 grand? And it's like, well, no, there's other damages in there. Okay, well, what's the roofing price? And then when you come, then they want to try and play the whole game, right? Where it's like, oh, no, but I got this price for this guy and that. And even though you're on the check, there's nothing that delineates what the roof is going to cost.
Yeah.
So they're going to push back. So I always tell the roofing companies, when
you guys aren't really using exact. I mean, how are you guys?
Oh, of course.
But I'm saying, like, when you guys are coming up with this lump sum price, how, like, I'm confused on the pricing now.
Oh,
like,
we go through
so
a
it's
whole
an
analysis.
exactimate, but they're getting released everything up front minus their deductible, and that's it. And then they're just getting a bulk check. Pretty much, right? Like, you know what I mean? So it's a $50,000 claim. Let's say their deductible is $7,000. They're getting $43,000. Here you go. This is for the siding, the fence damage, and all this stuff. It's not even broken down like it's like.
So the way we negotiate the number is based on the exactimates, the deductible, statutory interest.
Oh,
so we go through an analysis. So we sit there, we go, okay, to release you of bad faith, right? We go through and say.
So some of that money's not even the contractor. Some of it is the actual homeowners.
100%.
Right. So now you got to go back over there and really go sell it. Now,
and remember, you
give
guys
us a hint when the thing closes out.
So that's the whole point, right? We got to be in communication.
Okay.
And again, this is for the benefit of the homeowner because we're all talking about that's the end all be all goal, which is like, hey, now's the time that you guys should go back out to your client's house, right? That's your client, and discuss with them the fact that, hey, look, your claim is reaching towards a settlement. We would like to sit down and kind of go through with you what the price would be, you know?
Yeah.
Again, the settlement conversations and what we negotiate with the client is with the client, right?
Right.
But we're letting the client know, hey, look, you signed with the roofing company wants to come and do this roof. They're going to be on the check, right? So you guys can go ahead and work out exactly what that price is going to be.
Oh, gotcha.
Because like I said, let's say you guys bring us in on a complicated case. You guys are looking at the roof. When I send an independent adjuster and my guys to go out there and they see siding, HVAC, windows, interior leaks, right? That exactimate goes up.
Yeah.
And when we settle on the global for, sometimes they add additional for attorney fees in lit. Statutory interest, right? All the depreciation. So it's RCV. That's the final number. We're not going back. So sometimes that number is pretty big.
Yeah.
And, over what that roof's going to cost. So just to ease everybody, I always tell the homeowner before we get there, hey, you're going to want to know exactly what your roof is going to cost. Please call Middlestorm Roofing Contractor before we get to a number. Because again, you got to stay connected.
Dude, it reminds me, man, because I did go to, I went to a PA, man, on this big, it was a stone-coated steel, had a huge hole. This guy, the husband was in a wheelchair. The wife, she was old, man, so she's trying to take care of it. She's got a Jumanji hole. Like, I have not, like, I'm talking about, it looked like a cannonball hit it. I sent it to a PA, And then like when I told you that I had one call come back 2.5 years later. He's like, hey, you got the settlement? Well, that was right around that same time. So I called him back and I was like, hey, what happened to that one roof? And he goes, oh, we already cut her a check for like $360,000. And I'm like, oh, I got to swing by her house. So I go to buy her house. She's got a whole brand new Ludovici. I was like, yo. And I knocked on the door and I was like, you didn't call me? She goes, I lost your number. And I was like, man, like, when you tee this off to people, like, I'd appreciate a little call to let me know when this thing's settled out. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but let us talk about that, though, because I think that's a big thing for the roofers to understand as they run into, like, some of these denials and stuff. And, like, it took 2 years, right?
Yeah.
It took 2 years. But that PA ends up telling you he settled both claims. What I always want the roofers to have in their back pocket is, like, don't ever throw away money when somebody's willing to go after it, right, on a contingency. Now, again, it's an open coverage claim. You guys can go to appraisal. Boom, good. But when it's denied, when it's complicated, it could be a year later, could be a year and a half, but it's money.
Right.
And if that guy would have contacted you, we're talking about $300,000 job.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it comes a year and a half later, you feel me?
Absolutely.
So that's one thing I definitely want to point out in this podcast is, like, for all the contractors out there that are dealing with claims, you got to have your appraisers. You got to have your attorneys for the times that it comes, especially when it comes to these large commercial losses, right?
Yeah.
That you're trying to put your best foot forward, bring all the evidence. Who's going to spot the money for the engineers, right? Who's going to spot the money for the
bring
HVAC?
your experts too,
100%.
Yeah.
So I think that it's important, one, to talk about that, right? That you definitely need to always have, like, that Rolodex. And if it gets paid later, it's money that you were going to put in the trash, right? So always keep that in your mind, just because that's the pipeline. In Florida, that's essentially like how roofers survive. They're like 50% of the claims get paid, 50% of them don't, 50% of them go off, right? And then checks start coming in, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of know how to sit with the homeowner, go through that whole process. But man, anybody you're giving where, you're referring, right? Anytime you're, they got to keep you tapped in.
Absolutely.
There's certain things that you got to do to keep things kosher and do things right? I represent the client. I don't represent you.
Right.
But you're referring me, and I know you're going to do right by them.
Right.
There's no reason that I can't make that synergy happen.
I love that, dude. I love that. Because it's like, dude, I'm like, what? Like, so, all right, so we got a couple other topics, man. You want to talk about that RICO case they got going on in Oklahoma?
Bro, hell yeah. So we got some stuff here that I really like.
Yeah.
Talking about insurance in general, right? I think that is big for the contractors to kind of understand, because it sets the tone for what might come, right? For the contractors that haven't looked into this, something that's very interesting in the insurance world is the McKinsey report.
Okay.
Right? This is essentially when insurance changed. And long story short, Allstate hired a risk assessment company, right? It's called McKinsey. McKinsey comes out in the 90s, and they put together, I believe it's like a 700-page document, right? And end all be all of this document was essentially saying, delay, deny, defend, right? And in having an SOP, right, of how you're going to predetermine or manage a claim loss, right there alone is bad faith, right? For you to have a system in place, right, as a private entity where you are systematically denying claims or delaying claims to make profit, which again, that's what they've been told to do. It becomes a very big issue for this country in general. So right now, Oklahoma is the only state that has really taken action on the situation. And what's going on is there was tornado claims, right, that went out there, a bunch of wind claims, and they realized that there was a modus operandi, basically, in terms of how they were determining these losses. And there was never a roof replacement. So they had thousands of claims, never got approved a roof replacement. It's crazy, legit losses, right? Essentially, the Attorney General of Oklahoma goes after State Farm for RICO. They're right now in a RICO case, right? Like an organized crime unit. Currently right now. You can look this up. And the top, from what I understand, the top Oklahoma bad faith attorney was just presenting yesterday. And these people get smacked on these bad faith cases. He was talking about some of the judgments, because this is how we're going to change the insurance industry. $135 million. there was one bad faith lawsuit that they got $1 billion against the carrier for bad faith, right? That this is our only tool for holding them accountable. And the biggest thing about this RICO, though, and why they brought RICO is because is the only way they were going to get internal docs, right? The RICO charges essentially look at this as a crime organization that they, have this modus operandi, right, to do this. And right now, the judge ordered that they have to give this discovery, secret discovery. This is like high level, high meeting minutes, like next level stuff that we have never seen be produced by an insurance company. And right now, it's on appeal. But if this goes through,
how do you keep up? Like, where can I go to keep up with this case?
Oh, 100. You can look it up right now.
Really?
Yeah, man.
I'm
gonna send you a link.
Send me a link.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you a link. But all the orders. This is all public record right now.
Really?
So the orders on public record on the docket, and they pulled it, and the judge agreed, bro, to get this secret discovery. And again, that's something that's never happened in this country.
So it's gonna be all the emails from all the executives, all the way to the tip top. The Statestein files.
I like that. That's hilarious. Damn, you just came up with a little slogan and everything. The Statestein files.
See how many times your name is mentioned in this.
That is awesome.
Dang, dude. That's crazy, man.
I think it's going to be the first time that, and again, it's going to change the whole narrative, right, for the propaganda that they've done, we're by your side, right, all stay. And I think that if this actually comes out and there's some media, some publicity on this, and they hit an insurance company for RICO, I think it changes the whole environment in terms of how they analyze claims moving forward. Now, is it going to change how they're kind of stripping the policies and things like that? That has to do with the OYR, right? Insurance regulation, and what they're allowing to happen, right? Capitalism, right? Like, it's a private entity. They're kind of let them do whatever they want. But when it affects overall public policy, right, you got to look at the overall good to society. If it's too big of an effect on society, right, public policy says, you have to regulate this industry in some way.
Right.
They haven't been regulated yet, right? Yeah. They keep getting these new things that they could throw into the policy.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's so crazy because, like, I come from stone-coated steel roofing, right? And I'm not going to lie. I got trained maybe the wrong way, right? Like, I'm be honest. Like, the way I was trained was like, hey, on a stone-coated steel roof, look at the declarations page, you know what I mean? And look, but even when you look at those declaration page, it's a bunch of codes. Like, you have to punch in the codes to into your phone. Like, so how does this homeowner even know what they're covered for? Because there's like 12 different codes on here, and you're like, what is going on? Like, how does this person even know how to read their insurance policy? You know what I mean? And they don't, right?
They don't, dude.
And so it's like, I agree with you. It starts with the education from the agent. I mean, now, granted, I'm gonna give them some game too. Like, it is what it is. Like, come fucking sue me until you guys start enforcing something. I don't know. But
and again, explaining somebody a policy is one thing, but like, it's not hard to just tell somebody like, oh, like you mentioned, homeowner, can you look at your policy?
Yes.
And tell me, do you have actual cash value?
Right.
Does it say actual cash value? I mean, sometimes it's through their email. Ma'am, can you do a control find? Do you have actual cash value? Well, if you look up what that is, right, you're not explaining to them what you cover or nothing. You're just like, hey, is this in your policy?
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Take a look, right? Because as your roofer, I could just tell you, is there going to be more money? Now, how does that actual cash value get applied? How is it going to affect the actual price itself? All of that is different info.
Yeah.
But for them to first understand, hey, actual cash value, you can look it up yourself, right? I don't think there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You gotta, hey, take a look at this.
Yep.
If this is in there, this is gonna be difficult, right? Hey, take a look at your deductible, right? People could do math.
Well,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Out of pocket will be a little bit higher, right? If you have an ACV, you should look into what an ACV policy is, and if you have one, double check with your carrier. You know what I mean? Make sure, right? Like, yeah, that's all. You know what? I love that you said that, man, because like we really teach on that anyway. I don't know why I didn't have this on silent. We teach on that anyway. All right, so let's talk about this because we were talking about this a little bit earlier, man. Deductible enforcement.
So,
what do you think is? What do you like? What do we do? So
Crazy.
I remembered my first point from earlier when I forgot my train of thought. When I try to do two things at one time, I forget both. All right, so this is what happens, right? I get a claim. It's $80,000. It's the fence. It's a big metal shed in the back. The roof, the RCV of the roof is $45,000. She just wants me to do the roof. So I'm like, cool. You don't want me to do anything else? You just want me to do the roof? Yep, just the roof. Cool. I send in an invoice for $45,000. Her deductible's $6,780, but it's $6,780 for the entire claim. You see what I mean? They're like, we want a check for $6,780. I'm like, I'm not doing everything. I'm just doing the roof. She shouldn't have to pay me the entire deductible. All I'm doing is submitting an invoice to the carrier. Why are they doing this? Like, I don't understand, because I'm a roofing company. I don't build metal sheds. And I don't build, we do have subcontractors that build fences. I can't have somebody do the shed if I want, right? But she had her own people. You know what I mean? So I'm like, why do I have to show you proof of a separate $6,000, $700, whatever that was, check? You know what I mean? It made it weird. What's your take on the deductible and in Texas? Because you've been to a lot of these conferences. What do the good guys do? What's your thoughts? Where do you think things are headed that way?
Well, you talk about Texas, and you brought this up. Originally, I'm from a Florida market, right, where this was a huge thing, and where they brought a lot of regulation to that, and they started looking at all these contractors. And I'm gonna be honest with you, what they're doing in that situation is just trying to make it difficult for you. It's not justified what they're saying, right? That doesn't make sense. But going back to what we really want to talk about, which is how does the contractor compete when it comes to bad actors?
Exactly.
And again, in every industry faces this, man. Every industry faces the good angel, bad angel, right? Where you're like, oh, I could make more money if I just did this, you know? And I'm a big believer in cream always rises to the top. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And you do things the right way, over the long haul, it's going to pay off. Yeah. But it's extremely frustrating. But I ran into that a lot myself from an attorney perspective. You can't give kickbacks, bro. You can't do that. You can't give money to people for referrals. Does that happen? Was that happening in the industry? Hard for me to compete, right? Because I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to risk my law license. But there's a bunch of other people that are doing it. And how am I going to get that referral partner away from them, right? It's impossible. And so...
Woo, man, dude, it drives me crazy. I'm watching roofing companies get bought by private equity for $50, $60, $70 million, right? I've had some guys get recruited to some other companies, and then they come back, and they go, these guys are just waiving the deductible. And I'm like, and they're selling? Why would a private equity company buy a company that is practicing the wrong way? One of my guys went over there and was like, dude, the way I was showing them, how to move ACV, toward, their deductible, you can do that. You can legally do the ACV's their money. You know what I mean? They can move it around however they want. And they can move that toward the deductible or toward the RCV of whatever that you are doing. You know what I mean? That's the legal way of doing it. But these guys weren't doing that at all. They didn't even know what the difference was between moving ACV and how to calculate that and all that shit. And I'm sitting there going, what? I don't know, dude. It strikes me up. It lights a fire under me, man, because I really feel like Texas needs some kind of regulation, man. Something. Fucking maybe a pop quiz. You know what I mean? How many nails go in a shingle? What's ice and water? We get on roofs all the time, and I'm the ridge is upside down and going. I'm
it's crazy.
What is going on? I'm the barrier of entry in Texas is
there. It is.
It's fucking crazy. I was in roofing for 5 years before I ever started my own company. You know what I mean? Because I learned about TPO, I learned about specialty, I learned about stone coated steel, I learned about, I watched these guys, I learned, right? I'm watching guys that go, dude, I heard there's money in roofing, bro. I'm just in roofing now. And you're like, oh, really? You don't even know how to do quality assurance. You don't even know if it works good. I'm like, this is a virus.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing about Texas is and again, I'm just coming off of Tapia and listening to the defense attorneys talk about their clients, insurance companies, right? And what their biggest problems are here in Texas. And if I'm being honest with you, bro, it's the roofing companies, but they're not regulating, right? It's what we talk. It's like they're making all these laws. They're saying that it's their fault because there's all these bad actors. People are getting money stolen from them, right? And all these things are happening. But then where's the enforcement, right? Just this alone, man. And again, I don't want nobody getting in trouble, bro. I don't care if you're doing anything wrong. We all know everybody's done shit. Yeah. I don't condone anybody getting in trouble. But the day one person does, and they go after one of these bigger companies, which is what happened in Florida, the environment will change. Yeah. You know what I mean? And again, who's going to be that person? Do you want to be that guy? Do you want to be the one that sets the example? As you continue to grow and scale, that target, right, just grows. Like I said, they have profiles on every single one of the roofing companies that do volume here in Texas. Yeah. And the insurance companies have told us, hey, this person works with, and again, roofers that work with PAs, they know this roofer works with this BA and this. That's the way it is. Yeah. But until they start enforcement, this is always going to run rampant. Yeah. Got no licensing. It's to me, the craziest thing ever. And that's the conundrum I feel that Texas is going through that I still haven't figured out, which is like their want for all this construction and there to be money flowing in that market. And, it brings a lot of lives and a lot of taxes. And you know what I'm saying? Money's rotating because of it. But then they're saying there's an insurance crisis, right? And they're saying that there's all these problems. But then you got guys that are like, we brought one paper, him and his boy, go sign a bunch of claims in a storm, see if maybe the sub shows up and does it. You know what I mean? And they're collecting money on that. Yeah. And those guys are absorbing deductibles for sure because they're walking up there like, oh, well, I don't even know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? This is going to be a free roof. That's all I know how to say. Yeah. It's a free roof.
Free roof.
Free roof.
You won't pay anything out of pocket.
You will not pay anything out of pocket. That's the pitch.
Yep.
And again, man, until there is enforceability, which I think there will be, man. Again, I think that there's been a lot. You guys have heard it more now over the last couple of years. Yeah. But it takes time to build the people to follow up on it, right? It's very easy to change the laws. It's very easy to, have the idea of what could make it better. It's similar to like having an idea in a business, but how are you actually going to apply it? Yeah. How are you actually going to enforce it? Right. How are you going to execute? Yeah. And that's where Texas is missing, man. Yes. Is on the execution side. Yep. And like you said, man, it comes down to it's hard to compete when people are doing things wrong. I think that Texas needs to stop complaining about bad roofing companies, right? Let the good roofing companies make their money and do what they got to do with the bad roofing companies, But I think all of this without enforcement and just the boom, 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 and like it's all talk.
Because y'all have licensing in Florida, right?
100%.
Yeah. Like, dude, like the only thing you can have out here is an RCAT license. You know what I mean? That's the only like barrier that shows like that you've been in business for over 3 years. You have a brick and mortar. You have a high 4.5. I think it's like 4.7 star rating. They have all these requirements for you to be in that group, and I'm like, that's it. There's nothing else. There's no other testing. There's no other thing that can make you stand out differently other than that RCAT license. And I don't know how long you've been out there in Austin, but I've been hearing like RCAT's been trying to like, I don't know, this guy Chris, every time I run into him, he's like, RCATs are in bed with the insurance companies and that RCAT license is fake and like everybody's about to get in trouble. Have you heard any of this stuff before?
No, because again, get in trouble for what though?
So saying that you're licensed, right? Like having I tell them I give them a license report, right? Now, do I say RCAT or state? No, I just say license report.
That's nothing wrong with that.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that's like, and like he's like, oh, but everybody's gonna come down on you, and I'm like, dude, I don't know who to believe. You know what I mean?
I don't think I don't think that to me is not as big of an issue in terms of saying like, oh, I give a license report and you have an RCAT license. Yeah. I think that's the biggest change that needs to happen, obviously. I think that they're pushing for that. I think RCAT's been pushing for that for a long time, right? Licensing in Texas. And I think it's the conundrum, man. I think that Texas looks at it like it's great, but it puts a hamper on people being able to go out and do construction and make money. Right. And maybe the insurance companies don't like it, maybe the insurance premiums don't like it, But the state of Texas obviously does like the fact that people are making money and living their life and putting up roofs on people's homes. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the economy's booming out here.
Economy's booming, boy. And that's good for the state,
Yeah.
you know? So they're fighting between the insurance situation and the roofers, right? And I think their solution was kind of like, let's just strip the policies, right? Little enforcement on the roofers and that side, and then they're just stripping rights, you know?
What it was, you told me you talked to, where you were at the conference and Steve Badger was there.
Yes, sir.
Darth Vader himself. What was his recent pointers at the conference?
Again, man, for one, Steve doesn't like roofers living the good life. I'm gonna tell you like that. Steve was very adamant.
I love you, Steve. It's all love. Don't worry about it.
Steve was upset.
I love you anyway.
Steve was upset about the roofers living a good life. I think Steve's the only one that wants to fly private and stuff. But yeah, man, his two biggest things were, you know, the paper contractor, bro. And I think that, again, if you start to talk about license requirements and things like that, you're not going to run into that problem as much, man. Cream rises to the top. You got the legit guys. Yeah, they're storm chasing and they're doing roofs, but they're putting on good roofs. They're licensed. The homeowner's getting what they need. They deserve it. Yeah. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. It works out for everybody. His big thing was that, hey, guys, we got to do something. And he was even saying, talking to the public adjusters in the room and me, myself, and the attorneys, being like, you got to know who you're representing, right? Like us working with those roofers is like you're enabling it. You're enabling this to continue. Yeah. And it's like, bro, these roofers have open coverage claims, bro.
Yeah.
Like, they're chasing legit storms. My dude lost 2 appraisals, right? 180. That means that the claims are legit. Like, we're out there helping on legit claims that need to get paid. But his biggest gripe is that you guys are the ones telling the homeowner there is a claim. And that's where his problem is like, if you guys are not out there banging doors, they're thinking, oh, people are not going to open as many claims. Yeah. So his biggest gripe is trying to get, and I'll be honest with you, he likes public adjusters, good public adjusters, and tries to push that narrative. He's a big proponent of separating, not joining roofers and public adjusters together. He's big on that.
I agree, because, you know, I do think public adjusters have to go through, like, you have to actually have a license. You have to be educated on being able to talk policy. And some of these guys don't know, like roofers. I mean, unless you've been in the game a while, you don't even know how to talk policy. You don't even know. I mean,
and again, you shouldn't. Roof claims.
And you shouldn't. There should be some regulation there. I agree with that. But what happens, though, is like, you know, the public adjuster will automatically, every single time, you guys are going to take 10% of the fucking claim because the insurance gives me a half-ass, and now I'm going to make less margin on my job because I didn't, like, bro, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, then all of a sudden my margins go down, and this guy walks away with 10% of the RCV. You know what I mean? And then I get handed it back, and I'm like, hey, ma'am, yeah, you remember that extended warranty or that upgraded shingle I was going to be able to give you? Yeah, we're going to have to do something different. It's going to be,
you know? And I think, I'm going to be honest with you, man, that's what I find really interesting. And, like, again, with the appraisal route and the success you guys are having, like, as a business, you got to do what makes the most sense.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things I find so interesting about Texas is, like, the PAs and the roofers are like against each other in that sense. And like roofers don't see their value, you know, and then PAs, you know, some, right, think the roofers are killing their claims game and that's why the policies are getting stripped. Yeah. So that whole like idea I think is tough because in Florida, the roofers work so directly with the PA that it's new for me to like experience this.
To see that.
To see that, you know what I mean? It was weird to see it, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to results, right? Yeah. And if I'm a roofing contractor and in Texas allowed to go to appraisal and can hire somebody, it's going to be less expensive, it's going to be faster, and it's working, man, right? Which is at the end of the day benefiting the homeowner and the insured. That's what happens. Yes. Now, you have complex claims, bro. You have something that is commercial that has a lot of components to it, and we're talking electrical and HVAC and parapet walls and the whole deal, right? Yeah. I would suggest that point you get rep. If it's not a public adjuster, you get with an attorney. But a public adjuster, especially here in Texas, man, they have a lot of knowledge. They're not needed on every claim, just like we're not needed on every claim. Right. You know? But I definitely think that there needs to be a little bit more synergy.
So you think, you know, because remember I was telling you earlier, right? I was like, I went to a public adjuster. He went to an appraiser. So I got charged the public adjuster and the appraiser. You know what I mean? Like, in what order, like with your experience now in Texas, like what do you, I run into a difficult claim, right? HVAC, I got all these complexities, right? All these things going on. Like what order would you recommend like a contractor take?
That's a tough question. And again, like I always want to be straight up and transparent. Yeah. I love public adjusters. Those are my biggest referral clients. I was one for a very long time. I see a lot of value in what they do. I definitely think it's case by case, but when you have the option to go to appraisal and you have a good appraiser that's going to put together his own estimate as he goes into appraisal, and he's going to delineate all those things that you would need a PA to delineate, right? Yeah. The extra stuff, right? Like we mentioned, the siding, HVACs, the windows, interior leaks, all that type of stuff. Again, you brought up a good point for me to mull over. I'll be real with you. I mean, when I walked in here talking to you, I was like, you know, more gung-ho about telling you like, hey, man, you guys got to start working with public adjusters more.
Right.
But when we talk about the appraisal process, I mean, again, they're going to put together their own estimate. It could work out, right? They might end up there anyway, you know? So I think that's a very interesting situation is going on. I think a lot of the adjusters are, like you have seen already, might change their model a little when it comes to trying to get roofing company referrals. I think that now they'll probably come at you and say, okay, I'm a public adjuster. I do fires. I do floods. I do all these other things, right? Yeah. Plumbing break, complex losses. But if I want to get some, if I want to team up, right, get some referrals, help some homeowners with a roofing company, maybe my best avenue would be to come and pitch my service as an appraiser.
Yep.
Right?
1,000%.
And I think that
it's an epidemic right now in Texas. I'm talking about like 10 appraisers hit me up a day. Like literally like, oh, it is like, you know, and like, I'm like, you know, price doesn't always justify like how good you are, you know?
100%.
You know? You know, and you're like, dude, do I use this guy? I don't know. Like, you know, and then PAs, and this is just my advice for public adjusters out here in Texas, man. If you guys do want to team up with like residential roofing contractors and really like partner with us, man, like that whole like communication and time cycle are just going to be the two things that you have to aim at if you ever want to work with us. Because like, you know, I will admit, like, yeah, I think a PA could get more money, but if the PA could get more money and justify the 10% and we can still do quality work at this homeowner's house, then I'm all about a PA if you can turn this thing in like 60 to 90 days. You know what I mean? But I'm not giving a PA something to work on for 2 years. You know what I mean? Then that sales rep's probably not even going to be here. You know what I mean?
Real.
You know, that's my best advice for you public adjusters. You know what I mean? So, okay, cool. Man, we tackled a lot of stuff, man. We were going to talk about a lot of things.
Yeah, it went fast, too. Dude.
Man, I think we touched on almost everything, dude. What are some things that you're seeing at contractors? I mean, we talked about waiving deductibles and stuff like that, right? But what are some common things you're seeing right now here in Texas that you're like, whoa, like contractors shouldn't be doing that? Like the best, maybe just like a nugget for everybody out there, man, of some common thing that you think that they don't know out there listening, and they're going, oh shit, I'm in Texas, I didn't know that. You know what I mean? Some complexities that you're seeing.
Yeah, that's a really good question. If I were to give one nugget to contractors out in Texas, the thing is, you guys are pretty versed, man. You guys have been, you know what I mean, and you get a lot of reps, you know. But my biggest thing is be prepared, man. Dude, you know what we've talked about today, and I think you touched on it, which is be ready for changes. You know what I mean? They've talked about it, right? They're out there. They might not be enforcing it, but it takes some time to build the teams to enforce, to come up with how you're going to do it. The first thing is get it into law, right? First thing is put it out there in the ether. So all I could tell you as a roofing company is if you're out there making 40 mil, 50 mil, and you're absorbing deductibles and you're teaching guys not how to speak properly when it comes to policy discussions, right? And you're not set up in a way where you could be prepared to move to appraisal, have your list if they don't let you supplement, I think that you'll be in a tight spot.
Yeah.
I think that you don't just want to go from where you guys are right now to allowing them to try to make some changes and all of a sudden this kind of like diminish what you guys have been doing and the potential to scale. I think having that plan B, that plan C, which is just saying straight up, okay, what if they start enforcing this, right? You guys are already on the up and up in terms of how you're doing things. But if I'm talking to the contractors out there in Texas, I would say be ready. The insurance companies, I've seen it in Florida, man. Like what happened over there is because of an insurance crisis. I believe Texas here is trying to protect the consumer more, but you got to watch trends. You know, you got to watch trends and you got to see that, one, they want to start enforcing you guys not being able to represent claims. Yeah. So just prepare yourself in a way where you can do it the right way. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if enforceability comes in that, what happens to you guys? You guys get bigger. Yep. The cream rises to the top. Yep. All these guys doing this shit wrong, it goes down, right? You brought up the biggest word, phrase, and I said this about public adjusting a long time ago in Florida, same thing when it came to attorneys. Barrier to entry is everything, bro. Yep. You can't just right now go and become a cell phone company, right, and pop up a cell phone tower and go ahead and do that. Yep. You know what I mean? And I think that the barrier to entry and the ease in which you can make money by doing things like absorbing deductibles and doing those things, if they take it away from you, you're going to be in a tough spot. Yep. So all contractors, I would tell you, this is the best roofing market in the United States. There's no better place to make money. There's no place that has more claims than Texas. But I would tell you, just be prepared for a little bit of the shift in terms of how these insurance companies are going to be dealing with you guys, how you educate your team on how to speak to a homeowner, talk about policy, talk about what ACV is, roof service. How do you do that the right way where if the day comes, the guys are still prepared. They got that little in their toolbox, you know what I'm saying? And that keeps rolling. Right. You know?
Right. 1,000%. Yeah, and I just want to end on like this last keynote, right? Is I think there needs to be a lot more collaboration, right? As far as from the insurance companies and agents and everybody, like we have to protect this ecosystem, okay? Because you got agents, you got public adjusters, you've got contractors, you've got attorneys, you've got appraisers. We all like, and you know, we all collectively work together, right? And so like I really truly feel like there's this big gap in education, because there's some guys out there that just don't know and they just do the wrong thing because that's what they were taught. You know what I mean? By the last roofing company. Remember the wives' tale stuff? You know, it's like they don't know how to do things the right way. And there's nobody out there that I currently know of right now that's like really telling people from a lawful part, right? From like a UPPA, because like it's like you don't have to take a test on UPA laws. Like I didn't even know what the fucking UPPA laws were till I was like in my 4th or 5th year of roofing. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, I can't say that. I can't say this. I can't do that. Like all these different things. And you're like, oh, snap, I've been doing this for the last 4 years. I didn't mean to do that. I just didn't have the education, right? Reading insurance paperwork, right? Because a lot of these guys get handed insurance paperwork. And who gets handed the insurance paperwork? The roofing contractor, right? Okay, you hand it to the roofing contractor. Now, that roofing contractor has to interpret. Now, there's 7,000 different ways these things can get written, right? Like the different policies, all that stuff. And then they have the stability, and then they have the exactimate. And then in stability, it's like the check mark means that they're not getting depreciation. And then an exactimate, the alligator mouth means they're not getting depreciation. It's just like, you're like a check mark I thought was good. A check mark's wrong on stability. It tells you, you know? And so it's like, they're like, and then that education right there on how to read the scope, right? Because like, but they're leaving the roofing contractor out of it. You know what I mean? They're leaving us out of it.
And they're such a big part of it.
And I think it could get better if somebody would just from, you know, like legally or insurance or somebody would come in and like go, hey, this is how you guys do things, the legal, the right way, the ethical way. So guys understood before you can even get into this. You know what I mean? Because this is what's currently hurting the economy. It's hurting the policyholder. They don't have the education. Maybe the roofing contractor doesn't have the education. They think that, you know, whatever, the homeowner's going to owe this. And then at the end of the day, the homeowner's like, hey, they only sent me $4,000. Well, you owe me $9,000. You know, it just creates all this confusion.
Well, Jay, let's talk about that real quick before we finish up, man, because I think you made a good point. I think that especially your audience and the way that you try to like collaborate with other roofing companies within the market and just like you guys are, you know, kind of know the whole flow. You try to stay up on each other. Let's do something, bro.
Dude, I'm
let's
down.
do something.
I'm
let's,
down.
Bro, let's come up with an event. We'll do
Yeah.
a little boot camp, bro. You
I'll
get
do
a
it.
lot. And again, I mean, we're just all going to talk real here. All the other roofing companies can come.
Absolutely.
But we all know, you know, some of the guys might get swiped, you know, but that's a part of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the idea is for education, bro,
Yeah.
and bringing the guys together to be like, hey, guys, this is how we can do things right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And do a boot camp, bro. We
Yeah.
educate a bunch of roofers. We get them together, and we say, hey, look, guys, this is how you should
Dude,
be
I
running
love
an
that.
insurance claim, bro.
I love that, dude.
Let's
I
do
think
it.
it's a great idea, man, because I think that's a huge impact that we can make into roofing, because I think if people knew better, they'd do better, you know, and I don't think they understand, because guys out here going around waiving deductibles, doing all this stuff, the insurance company is now raising the deductibles, putting all these different, you know, exclusions and endorsements on these policies.
Don't think they don't know who's doing it, though, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
I'm
man.
like-
Listen, guys, like I said, it happened in Florida. It happened forever. And one day to the next, they will show up. And then all of a sudden, it's a big deal because it's there. They're telling you not to do it. There's not enforcing it. But it's just like everything else, man. When they're watching and they want to do something, they wait, bro.
Yeah.
They wait till it has accumulated and accumulated and accumulated. They're not coming because the first time they saw it. And you know who they're, you know, the first person you think they're gonna go after the guy who's doing $5 million?
No.
Hell no.
No.
Because that's not an example, bro.
Nope.
That's not how you make an example out of
No,
people.
they're going after this $60-70 million company. They're going to teach the big guy the lesson and send him through the lawsuit and all that stuff. Yeah, man. And it's sad, man, because maybe the guy didn't he didn't know. I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe he didn't know.
Or was it, again, it's not emphasized as much, bro, because again, when somebody tells you something's wrong, but then nobody gets in trouble for it, you start to question, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I mean, yeah, the speed limit says 60, but everybody here drives 90, and I've never been pulled over. I've been doing this for 3 years. You're going to drive 60? Right?
Right, exactly.
It's just, that's life. So,
Man, that's so well put. That's the best metaphor I've heard. For real. For real.
but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why I say be prepared, right? Do things the right way because it's out there, and all it takes is boom in the snap of a finger, bro.
Yep.
And the industry gets that little rock, that little shake. And I think we could do it before, man. I think we educate and we let guys know, hey, you can still make a lot of money not doing this. And again, you're hurting the industry as a whole, bro.
Yep.
Like there is a certain unification when it comes to like even these big contractors, right? It's like, bro, they know more or less where they're bidding, where their price is, because we gotta stay within each other. You start doing things outside the confines of the industry, bro, you're messing up the ecosystem.
Yes, it's
right?
an ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem.
And people, you know, you got to think just more macro, man. A lot of guys
sir.
out here, man, got to think more macro, man. You know, it's like I got 5 kids. We got sales reps here that got kids, families, all these different things. Like, bro, you guys cut down all the trees just because you guys want to just create a field for no reason. You know what I mean? Because you guys want to waive deductibles, and they're gonna react too, and everybody's gonna react. Every reaction has another reaction, and so it just ends up destroying everything, man. I really want to do this. Like, I really, really want to do this with you, dude, because I think hearing it from an attorney, maybe we can get some more experts on, you know what I mean, where guys can really ask the real questions about what's a wives' tale, what's the real truth, what can we say,
100%.
what can we not say, what are the do's, the don'ts, all that stuff, because there is, I think, unless somebody knows something that I don't know, there is like zero education in the state of Texas for that. Like, you know what I mean, on all of these different things. And so, dude,
Let's do
I
it,
love
man.
that. I love that.
Well, let's put something together
Yeah.
because I'm telling you, not only from that perspective, I'll be able to pull up, right? We pull a presentation. I'll pull up UPPA, exactly what it says, so
Yeah.
we can break things down, right?
Yeah.
What are you not supposed to do? And again, like with everything, right? There's something you're not supposed to do, and then there's a way to do it,
Yeah.
right? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
That makes sense for people, right? And there's a right way, and there's a wrong way, but there is a right way, right? And that's what we got to talk about, right?
Yeah.
It's not you just can't talk about these things. Oh, you're shut down. No, there's a way to talk about it,
Yeah.
right? There's a way to introduce these concepts to make sure that everybody's doing things appropriately. And I'll be honest with you, it's like what you said. If you're gonna do it that way, at least you're educated. You want to do something wrong, man. You're taking that leap, but at least with the knowledge, bro.
Yep.
Knowing that, hey, I come from these conferences. I've been hearing, right? They're profiling, they're putting on, they're trying to push it together. They're getting attorney groups that are gonna go after you people,
Yeah.
right? So I think that emphasizing it, just letting everybody know and preparing, right? Hey, fellas, maybe you're doing it this way now. You can start thinking today. You know?
I love that, dude. I love that, bro. How can people reach out to you, man, if they need your help?
Well, website, thelogicalfirm.com. We have an office in Austin, right outside of downtown, beautiful, standalone. Anybody want to come by? You want to bring the guys, in the New Austin office for an educational session in my office, and
Oh,
we
dude.
go out after, bro.
Say less.
Let's do it.
Oh, man.
I would love
if
to
you're
do
crazy
that.
enough to invite me, I'm crazy enough to come.
I love it, man. I love it. I would love to set something up for you guys to come to the office, but we're in Austin. We could give a phone number, email address, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, you can shoot it right here.
So the law firm's website is thelogicalfirm.com. It's spelled LAWGICAL. It's a play on words, right? Okay.
Don't y'all go spell logical.
Yeah. Don't just go spell logical. It's logical with LAW in the front. And yeah, my email is Dube, so DDUBE at thelogicalfirm.com.
Cool. And then phone number, if they have questions or anything, can they reach out to you via phone or office?
I think best give my office number. One of the numbers, 407-433-4131.
4131. Cool. Man, dude, this has been awesome, bro. I've learned a lot here just in this, man. And I think our viewers are going to get a lot of value out of this too. Listen, guys, if you guys want to reach out to me at Roof Dr. J on Instagram, if you want to be part of a winning roofing team, you go to millerstorm.com, click talent, and we will see if you qualify. And thank you for tuning in to the Hard Knocks podcast. We'll check you out next time. Stay tuned.